There were lots of lean years, right? I can remember distinctively a period of about 18 months where my diet consisted of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or ramen noodles.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what I didn't know, and
as you know, this month is Women in Industry, and today we're sitting down with Darnyelle Jervey, CEO of Incredible One Enterprises. This young lady has it going on. Multiple-time best-selling author, has been recognized and seen in Essence, Success, Black Enterprise, and O Magazine. I'm not going to steal her thunder. I'm going to let her tell you for herself. Let's rock with Darnyelle.
Great. So high energy, had me engaged the entire time.
I think what's great about Kevin's message is that, no matter how naturally talented you are, or no matter how great you can be, you can always keep striving for that next level. And even, if you become complacent, you might not even realize you've done it. But Kevin really helps you realize, that there's so much more that you can do. If you take a step back, really reevaluate what you're doing and what you're not doing, you can take it to the next level.
I loved his message about God's gift to you and your gift back, and he's just so down to earth and just a helpful, wonderful man.
Really, I think you can put him in front of anybody, and you're going to be inspired, you're going to be motivated, you're going to want to go out there, and you're going to want to start, reaching for that next level today.
Hey, thanks so much for joining in to the Leadership is Personal podcast, bringing you real-world solutions to real-world challenges in anywhere from 3 to 10-minute increments. Leadership is personal. Here's the better results. So talk to the audience a little bit about those times.
There were lots of lean years, right? I can remember distinctively a period of about 18 months where my diet consisted of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or ramen noodles. Okay. Because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was unwilling to do what I needed to do to learn it. And what that means,
do you mean by that?
Yeah, I was going to break it down for you. Most of the time what that means is making an investment in myself through someone else who had already walked the miles that I was trying to walk in my shoes, that could shorten my learning curve and stop me from making mistakes, right? So we always have a decision to make, and sometimes the decision that we make leads us closer to where we desire to be, and sometimes the decision that we make takes us further away. And there was a point in time when I decided to go further away, and it almost cost me everything. I mean, to the point of not only peanut butter and jelly and ramen noodles, which I can't eat to this day, by the way. Like, you give me peanut butter, that's like cussing at me.
No peanut butter and jelly anymore?
No peanut butter and
I'm sorry,
jelly.
3 days in Vegas on a really extravagant trip, and I come back and the one thing that I crave is peanut butter and jelly.
Oh my God, no, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Ramen
There's
noodles
oxygen and then there's peanut butter and jelly, right? I mean,
I used to feel that way until I had to eat it, where it's the only thing you can afford to eat. I might change some things for you. But
18 months.
18 months.
That is a considerable amount of time. Tell me a little bit about what was going through your head at that time.
Every possible emotion, every fear, questioning consistently, should I go back to work? Right? But there's what you know is that you were called to something higher, and it hasn't manifested yet, right? Faith, in my opinion, is refusing to allow what you see to hinder what you believe. And I believed that I was on a path to greatness, but all of this was part of my journey. I mean, it also included filing bankruptcy. I left corporate America with multiple six figures in the bank and liquid savings, right? In addition to 401k and all of that. And when you have a lifestyle that is a six-figure lifestyle and you're not generating six-figure income,
live that lifestyle
you burn
continually.
through the six figures you have in savings.
I had a friend who's old grandmom. She wasn't, wildly educated, but she made this statement one time, and she said, everything going out, nothing coming in, don't last me long.
That's right. Very profound.
Very.
And you realize that, everything you thought you were doing that was right was in fact wrong. Now, I didn't come out and sit idly, for those of you who are listening. I came out and I immediately went to work. But my problem was I went to work creating stuff that I didn't do any market research to make sure they wanted. So I spent about 9 months getting ready to launch my business and launched it, and it was like crickets. No one wanted what it was that I spent all this time bringing to the table, because I didn't know that I should do market research. Well, it was still Incredible One Enterprises, but it was the early iteration. I thought that this paradigm, and this was around the paradigm around motivation was going to be enough to sustain. And I could just get up there and say all the things that everybody says, right? Like, don't give up and believe in yourself. You can do it. And that would be enough. And so I created all of this content around motivation at the time when the market was saying, motivation is no longer what we want. We need real content. We need actionable strategy. We need something that our employees can use to actually change their lives and the way they show up in their business. I missed the mark. I missed the market. And it cost me everything, because once I figured out that that was the problem, it then took me another 9 months to course correct, because my clients at the time were corporate America. And the sales cycle in corporate America is way longer than it is for consumers, right? And so that extra time, I blew through everything. I almost was living in my car at the point of filing bankruptcy. I didn't want to do it, but it was the only answer. So I'm so not condoning bankruptcy, right? But it was the only option I had. Right?
That is the answer for some people.
Yeah, it was the only option.
And nor should you be shamed.
Well, there was a time when I was ashamed. I'm definitely not ashamed now, which is why I'm talking about it.
You know, the preponderance of millionaires have filed bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You realize that,
well,
right?
I realize. I mean, you realize that's the power of story and learning people's story and not being on an island by yourself. Is you realize you think you're alone when you're going through it, but you're really not, and you're really not different. And that was enough to help me to kind of pull it together and do what I needed to do, but stay the course, right? I had to believe in myself. I had to bet on myself before anybody else would. But there was that time, that point of struggle and fear and uncertainty and doubt and questioning everything. And
even that soft voice or that pit of the belly.
Absolutely. Questioning God at every turn. Like, okay, I know you said that I'm not supposed to sit behind someone else's desk, but like, did you mean that I was supposed to start my own company? Because like, why isn't this working, right? And delay is not denial, right? Yeah. And I'm stronger and better for the experiences that I had. Had I come out and immediately went into success, I wouldn't be half of the business coach and consultant that I am today. Really? I'm able to help my clients even mitigate some of the mistakes and challenges that they might make based on the mistakes and challenges that I made, because success leaves clues.
So more clues. Okay.
Yeah.
What I just heard you say was that your trials and your tribulations made you wiser.
Oh, absolutely.
Interesting. The other thing that you said, and I'm a firm believer of, Jim Rohn says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the greatest amount of time with. I say you're the average of your 5 closest friends. You know, my mom used to say to me, you are judged by the company you keep.
That's right.
I say you're driven by the company you keep. Who do you spend your time, that treasure of time with?
Yeah, and I agree. I do an evaluation every 90 days of the people that are in my life and that are getting the majority of my time to ensure that they're adding value and not depleting me, right? Because if you're not a good steward over your energy and your cup, it will get empty because people will take from you. So these days, my circle is extremely small, and it's filled with people who edify and support me at every turn, but they also tell me the truth. And if the idea that I have is I'm dreaming big and I'm not thinking something through is going to take more than I surmise that it might take to make happen, they're being honest with me and telling me the truth. But they're not people that you would know necessarily, even though, we kind of go way back, but they're not people that you would know, but they are people that I've met along the journey that held up a mirror and really allowed me to see the best and highest version of myself and hold me to it consistently. They are the people that when the phone rings, I never send them the voicemail. I always answer to see what they need from me because they've given so much to me. So of course they include, my husband. They don't include my family, if we're being honest. They don't. My family, no. I don't come from an edifying environment. But they're adopted family, if you will.
You got to know that oftentimes some of that lack of edification is out of love, right? I often say, I gave the term I attribute it to my mom. I call it the good job syndrome. When I said, Mom, I'm going to roll out on my own. Boy, you got a good job. You better not leave that good job, right? And so oftentimes, because people can't see things for themselves, they can't see you doing it. And it's often out of their love for you that they don't want to see you get hurt. They don't want to see you bump your head. And so I oftentimes think that, out of love, people say, girl, you don't need to do that. Because they don't. The biggest issue is that they can't see it for themselves.
Right.
And if they can't see it for themselves, how can they even see it for
Right.
you?
Yeah.
So,
I think that's a different perspective. I mean, if I went into my entire story of what I come from, like even having
y'all
a
couldn't see her
conversation
face,
of
but
that.
it was quite clear
Yeah.
she wasn't aligning with me on that
No,
thought.
well, I mean, I get what you're saying. I think it makes sense. But, you know, when your parents are drug addicts and they've been to jail, you know, I mean, it's just an entirely different mindset and perspective and way of looking at things. So you tend to distance yourself from that, right? Like when you're a child, you really don't have a choice, right? Because you don't get to determine who's raising you.
Right.
In most cases,
Can't choose
when
family.
you become but when you become an adult, you get to choose who you spend your time with, right?
That's right.
Who you align yourself with. And unfortunately for me, I don't come from an environment where even in not seeing it for me, I could even perceive that it was love that was making them not see it for me, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't raised in a family where I was told that, you know, you're all you have, and you guys stick together no matter what your family. That's
all
not
we
the
got.
environment, right? No, that's not where I come from. And so it's challenging to look at family in that way. But, you know, my best friends all come from really strong, edifying families, right? They grew up in that because that wasn't my light in life. My mom went to jail when I was very young, and my dad luckily did take custody of us, but he remarried, and my stepmother, she didn't want us there, and she let it be known every day. And so it's very
It's a tough
hard.
environment to grow
Yes,
up in.
very hard.
So where do you find the strength? And this month is really about women in industry and women. And, you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for women. You know, of course, I got a mom and sister, but I got a wife, 2 daughters, female dog, female oven, female stove, you know, everything in my house. Hell, now I even got a granddaughter, right? I don't know if testosterone is really going to be anywhere in my future, but where do you, as a woman, especially in this environment when it's really tough to be a woman, and Lord knows, let alone be a woman CEO.
Yeah.
You know, where do you find the strength?
Yeah.
How do you come from that sort of beginning? And I think it's that's powerful, right? The notion of, to look back at, you know, from whence I've come and to where you are today.
Oh, yeah.
Where the hell do you find
It's
that
very
strength?
humbling. You know, the strength started with Miss Dixon. She was my 5th grade teacher. I always pay homage and tribute to her because she saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. Where most people saw angry black child, she saw leader. And she was willing to spend the time. She was willing to spend the time to allow me to save me from myself, because my anger was going to set me on a path and a trajectory where I would have been like my 6 brothers and sisters, either in jail or in the system, right, in some capacity. But she took a little extra time as a teacher when she didn't have to help me to see my potential. So that's where it started. She gave me my first journal. Right? And she gave me my love affair with words. I made a declaration that I wanted to use words to change people's lives because of Miss Dixon. So it started with Miss Dixon. Then by the time I got to high school, there was Mr. and Mrs. Cook. They didn't have their own children because they married late in life, but they loved my little brown body. And all of these people were white people. They didn't look like me. But they saw seeds of greatness in me, and they had a great way of reaching deep down inside and pulling out my greatness and then showing me how to get my power and my strength from it. And outside of that, I think it would be what might be obvious, but I'll state it for everyone: God. Right? Like, God doesn't have time to make a nobody. You remember Louis Timberlake from MBNA, right? He used to say that every seminar. God didn't have time to make a nobody. He only had time to make a somebody. And when I understand the story surrounding my being here. My mom got high every day. She was carrying me because she didn't know I was there, in her defense. And once she learned, the doctors thought the damage had already been done and there would be no way to get me out of that cognitively. And they thought I would have a lot of disabilities and I wouldn't get to enjoy life like most people enjoy life. But there's never been anything cognitively wrong with me. That's purpose. Yeah. And so knowing that story, learning that story very early in my life, I've been able to draw strength from that too. And then I think like attracts like, right? So I spend time with people who fill my cup, who inspire me, that make me think differently, help me to aspire to another level, or consider the possibility that where I am right now, I'm still playing small, as big as I play on this planet.
Is that mentors? Is that friends?
Absolutely, mentors and friends. And you might know one of my mentors, Tony Allen. Everybody knows Tony. Well, in Delaware, everybody knows Tony. But yeah, some mentors and friends and loved ones that aren't necessarily family. And then myself. I've always been able to hold up a mirror to the best version of myself. I study a lot. I read a lot of books, at least one book a week. Do a lot on personal development and mindset and just shifting the dichotomy and where I came from. I might not have been able to control my subconscious mind as I was being reared, but as an adult, I have complete control over what I take in, and I maximize that in every possible way.
So what might you, if you're talking to, a young lady, a young woman, and irrespective of their beginnings, whether they had a tough beginning, whether they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, what's the best piece of advice? That one piece of advice that you might give to, someone who maybe come through where you come through, and I don't mean going way back, but I mean that turn where they're getting the whisper, they're getting that sort of knot in their gut. Yeah. What do you tell them?
To thine own self be true.
But what if they don't even know themselves?
Okay.
Because oftentimes the very toughest question to ask is, who are you?
Yeah.
And I think I might ask you that next.
Yeah, that's fine. So if they don't know themselves, I would say get to a quiet place, get a journal, and start writing about the possibility that you see for yourself in every possible way. Look at every area of your life and just start to jot thoughts down. And because if you don't over process it, what comes out will come from your heart. And it's like the Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz moment with the ruby slippers at the very end when they say, you've been here all along, Dorothy, right? You've had the answers all along. Everything you need is already inside of you. And if we would just spend quiet time with ourselves, the answers to the questions that we've most been asking will begin to come to the surface for us. And most of us know enough about ourselves to know when we like or don't like something. So pay attention to that. Heed that. If you don't like it, write down why you don't like it. If you do like it, write down why you do like it. And what you'll start to see, as I've said 3 times now, success leaves clues. You'll start to see small clues of who you should be or how you should be showing up, what your purpose might be, and how you can extend the life of your purpose through making the impact that you want to make on the planet.
Our culture, though, really is, and especially as we think about millennials, God knows how many times have we heard, well, these millennials, they want everything. They're entitled. They were born with a spoon in their mouth. And so we have a culture that really tells you to delay your purpose, to delay what your brain, heart, body, and soul is telling you is your purpose. Delay that. What do you think? I
think that's hogwash. No, I think about when you get on an airplane and the flight attendant, she goes through all of our safety instructions and she said, should the cabin lose pressure, an oxygen mask will fall from the ceiling. Put on your mask before helping those who are traveling with you. So and what I will teach my children is how to put on their own mask, because they're no good to anyone if they don't know who they are and they don't know how they feel and what's important to them. I think we need to stop allowing our fears to impact how other people show up in life. We need to see people who are courageous, like kids. We're only born with 2 fears, right? If you really want to see what fearless looks like, you watch a child. They'll try anything. And we need to stop stifling
out of us, right? You think about it.
Well, we got it beaten out of us.
Yeah.
But as parents, those of you who are listening, if you have children or grandchildren, this is your opportunity to not take that away from them. Yeah. Give them the ability to decide and give into
what I
that.
like about the younger version, the younger population right now. They're as close to fearless as I've ever seen, right? You look at what's happening around, just the country, and how teenagers are really driving change in America, right? And so I often say, we get the creativity beaten out of us, right? It astonishes me that, our educational system and our school and our classrooms, that's the only thing that hasn't changed in the last 50, 100 years, right? It still looks the same. Lord knows the telephone looks a hell of a lot different than that long cord that used to come from my mother's kitchen, right? And so You told me what your toughest decision was. What was the impetus? What was that thing that made you go, okay, God, I'm listening. I'm ready now. What was it?
Yeah, I wasn't happy, right? What used to bring me joy wasn't bringing me joy. I realized that I was not doing anything to make the planet better. And I think that all of us have a responsibility to leave the planet better than we found it. Like, I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but I mean...
No, not at all.
It's
not at all.
purposeful. Like, if we believe that we are born for purpose, with purpose, on purpose, then that means there's a purpose for our existence, and we need to figure out that purpose and do something with it.
You know, I giggle because I don't think that's absurd at all. In fact, I talk to people all the time about what resume are you building?
Yeah.
And when I ask you what resume you're building, I'm talking about not LinkedIn and your stereotypical or your traditional resume. I'm thinking about, you know, what are you doing here on earth?
Yeah.
You know, Horseman said you should be ashamed to die until you won a victory for mankind.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing to win that victory? Because when you close your eyes for the last time on this earth, people aren't going to say, man, she was a dynamite entrepreneur.
Right.
Hell no. They're going to talk about how you made them feel
right,
and what you did to
absolutely.
change their
Right.
lives. And so I'm going to ask you that now. If you close your eyes right now,
Yeah.
what would people say about
Yeah.
Darnyelle Jervey?
They would definitely say that I made a mark and didn't leave a stain. I leave it all on the field. I serve fully. I serve completely out of my overflow. I do what I need to do personally to always be able to operate from my overflow. I care about people. I partner with people. I'm not selfish. Sometimes I'm selfless, but I'm really about other people. I believe in the good of humanity. And so I've done my part to create an environment for people to see the highest and best version of themselves, to rise up incredibly, and to do work that first and foremost creates a spark in their heart, and then ultimately is such a ricochet that it would shake the planet. Because it's about shaking the planet in your own way. You may never impact billions of people, but what about the 250 lives that you have the ability to impact? Are they different because you came, or are they more of the same? I think we have a responsibility, and this, you know, being a leader is it's a responsibility. Like, I don't think we get to choose if we are a leader. Now, I know corporate America would tell you that, you know, you get to choose being a leader, or if you're promoted into a position that allows you to manage the efforts of others, now you're a leader. But I would contend that you're not born a leader, you're made a leader, but you're made a leader through the decisions that you make day in and day out. And every one of us have leadership capacity, regardless of what your title might be in the company where you serve, whether it's your own or some other one. And leaders are quite simply people that have people following them. So what are you doing to create an opportunity for people to follow you? Whether it's through community service, right? Whether it's through the way that you show up in the organizations where you work and volunteer and participate every single day in your position, in your household, right? I think every single one of us has a responsibility to lead in some way and to lead people to something better in themselves. The reason I named my company Incredible One Enterprises is because I believe that if each and every one of us realized that we are born in the image and likeness of God, which is in fact incredible, and if we would take that incredible and allow it to inspire someone else to find their incredible, then this world would be an incredible one.
Incredible.
It would be an incredible one, right? And I take that responsibility so massively because that's why I'm here. I don't want to leave a stain. I want to make a mark. I want when I leave and people talk about me, I want them to say, you know what, she did something for other people. It wasn't just about her house or her car or her red bottoms. It was about helping other people to aspire to that same level.
So tell me, wow, phenomenal commentary. I don't know about y'all. This might be the quietest on my podcast I've ever been, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this. But tell me, as a woman, what challenges do you face that maybe there's some idiosyncrasies around, you know, the challenges that you may face and the decisions that you want to make as a woman?
Yeah, I think this is probably going to shock people, but my challenges are not because I'm a woman. They're challenges, right? I don't play the woman card, if you will. I think that we do live in a society where some believe that being a woman is, you're a lesser version. And it's unfortunate that in, 2018, 2019, we're still contending with this. And women are continuing to struggle with being heard and seen and able to have a seat at the table and leaning in and all of that stuff. I'm really grateful to say and grateful that I'm not in corporate America and I don't have to contend with that. But my challenges are not womanly challenges. They're challenges, period. My challenges are not because I'm a black woman. My challenges are those things that I've identified that I either need support around figuring out how to do it or how to reach people, but they're not specific or contingent to my race or my gender. And I would ask everyone who's listening to consider that, to take your race or your gender away from it and then see if the challenges still exist. And if they exist, regardless of whether you're a woman or a man or black or white or orange, then you just have challenges that you need to work through. And then if you have challenges that are specific to your gender, you've got to check your environment and see if there's an opportunity for you to get away from those challenges, or what can you do to, as much as possible, turn those challenges into opportunities for growth and improvement. I think that we make excuses for things that we shouldn't make excuses for. And I'm not trying to be insensitive to the woman who works for the man that is chauvinistic or whatever terminology is appropriate to use in that case. I'm not trying to make excuses for that. But we teach people how they should treat us. And if you've given him permission to treat you that way without speaking up for yourself, then that might be why he's continuing to do it. Because I remember when I was in corporate America and men said things to me that were inappropriate and how I addressed it, and I didn't hear it anymore, and I got respect for being able to stand up for myself.
I'm going to give you just a couple of her accolades here. And what jumps out most at me, quite honestly, is the fact that she's an author. And she's a best-selling author with 7 books, right, including her latest project, which is Burn the Box, 7 fire-starter strategies leaders can leverage and market like a rock star, and R.O.C.K. star. Now, just to give you a little tidbit more of what we're working with here. She was named Coach of the Year by Stiletto Woman Media in 2012, and in 2013 was recognized as a small business champion by Small Business Trends. Now, she was also awarded the Women Presidents Organization Women of Color Excellence Award, but in 2019, she joined the $1 million class of Enterprising Women of the Year. She's got a plethora of degrees, we don't need to go there, but more than that, she's got a life of experience, which I find to be extremely valuable and provide opportunities for pearls of wisdom. What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten from someone?
Wow, the best piece of advice I've ever gotten from someone is to never give up on me.
Quite succinct, profound, and powerful.
Always
never
bet on you.
Okay.
That was the way they said it. Always bet on you.
And so what's the best piece of advice that you would give? Would it be that same piece of advice, or based on your experiences, what would you give?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's similar, right? And like I said earlier, to thine own self be true. Like, figure out who you are and ride it until the wheels fall off. That's authenticity.
Yeah.
There was a point in time in my journey where I was trying to be like other people because I thought that was what people wanted, and it didn't work for me, right? What's the quote? You can't, why spend your time, God made you an original, why spend your time trying to be a cheap copy, right? But we think that's what we need to do, and it's flattery almost, right? To emulate what someone else has done and try to be exactly like them, but it didn't feel good. It didn't. I tried it on and it didn't work for me. But when I just decided to be Darnyelle, that crazy, quirky, sometimes ghetto, always polished and powerful woman who likes to make people laugh and to have fun and be relatable and break concepts down in such a way that it's easy for people to understand, everything began to change, right? And it's about being okay with who you are, looking in the mirror and being able to smile even if there's more of you to love than you really want, right? Many people battle with the weight thing, but loving yourself never. Right, exactly, right? Just owning that and just saying, you know what? I don't need to lose 1 pound. I don't need to gain I don't need to get 1 inch taller. I don't need to cut my hair or color my hair. I don't even need to get my teeth whitened. who I am in this moment is enough. And because it's enough, I'm going to go out here and do it. And as I'm invited to share, to whether it's, to have a sales conversation as an entrepreneur, or to speak at a conference or at an event, the whole reason why I'm here in sunny Minneapolis, right? Realize that the invitation is your validation. They think you're enough too. Yeah. And if we would just own that, own who you are, and just ride it until the wheels fall off.
That's a difficult thing, though, in this environment, in our culture. I just had this conversation with someone earlier today who's working on putting out their very own podcast and how to create a podcast class, right? And they're talking about, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that to make it better. And I'm going, stop, execute. Execute. It's very easy in our environment to have that shiny new object syndrome, because there's always a shiny new object that comes out, right? And so I love the fact that you said you are enough. I love that. In fact, I say that pretty often, and I make certain that I tell my girls that you are enough. Yes. And damn it, if somebody doesn't think you're enough, then that's not who you need to spend your time with, right? And so let me ask you a question. And it's along the same lines of the mentorship and sponsorship and that sort of thing. And so, I would imagine Darnyelle and I worked together at MBNA many, many moons ago. And oftentimes the way that you managed to move ahead, get ahead, and excel and succeed was due to sponsorship. So my question to you is, who do you sponsor?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I actually have a program that I run with someone in Delaware. We've been running it under the radar, because it's not for the world to know. Like, I don't do the things that I do to get praise and accolades. I don't need that, right? But I've been running a program this is 2018, for 5 years, since 2013, for the girl children of incarcerated parents. Oh, wow. Right? So as I shared earlier, my mom went to jail when I was 8 during my 8th birthday party and rocked my world. And I don't think any little girl should have to grow up without either of their parents, but especially not their mother. Wow. Right? And so I've been pouring back in that specific group. I'm in the process. One of my initiatives for 2019 is to create a group for young girl entrepreneurs. Ooh, wow. To be able to pour back into them. I spoke at a conference last week, Kevin, and I met this young girl, Alana Andrews. Blew my mind. 14 years old. She's written her second book. She just launched her second company at 14. You know what she said that I thought was so powerful, and I wanted to share it with your listeners? She said from birth through the age of 3, as her mother was nursing her, her mom constantly said, there's greatness in you, in her ears, from birth to the age of 3. So she's at the point now, I had a conversation with her mother. Her mother says, sometimes I go in her room at night and I whisper in her ears, Alana, what's in you? And she says greatness.
While she sleeps.
Yes. And listen, I've got chills now as I'm even telling you about it. Like, first, it was just the most amazing thing, because I want to do that with my children, first and foremost, because if I wish someone had told me that, all that I've done without hearing that, what would have happened had I heard it, as I think the first thing. And then the second thing is, I think we get to a specific level in order to give back. Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to just sit in the big old house and eating bonbons all day. I want to impact other people.
I don't know where the hell they make these bonbons, because I hear everybody talking about it, but I've never in my life seen a bonbon. But anyway.
But, it's a French candy. But anyway, I want to shake the planet. And you know what better to shake the planet than, the age-old adage, the sometimes tired cliche, but the children, they are the future. Yes. Right? The greatest love of all is to teach them how to love themselves, right? So that they can love others. That's what our responsibility is to do as adults, as leaders, is to reach back and to help somebody else. I wouldn't be here today were it not for the seeds of greatness that I was standing on, of all of those people who poured into me, Miss Dixon, Mr. and Miss Cook. And those are just, the beginning of all the people who saw greatness in me and told me that they saw it instead of being intimidated by it. So I have this sense of obligation to be able to pour back in as much as I can. I invite young girls, and we do scholarships. Every time I do a live event, we scholarship at least one person in. Sometimes they're adults, sometimes they're children. But we're always giving back, because I'm blessed to be a blessing. What's the point of having it all if you keep it to yourself? You're not impacting the world at all. You're selfish and stingy. And that ain't leadership, if I can just keep it real.
Sounds to me like Darnyelle Jervey here is making a huge impact and winning a victory for mankind. We've had the pleasure of having Darnyelle Jervey here today, dropping mad science and all sorts of nuggets. They're going to have to sweep up the floor when we're done here. But thank you so much for joining me today. I think we're going to have her back. Okay. Because, she's bursting with additional information, and I've just enjoyed the time. So thank you for coming out. And for those of you that are listening, take her pearls of wisdom and use them. You are enough. You have greatness in you. Give me one more.
Oh gosh, I'm on the spot. I would say the last thing that I would say that'll really, I think, help to put everything that I've said into perspective is simply this. Do the best that you can and trust God for the rest. Because the how is not your job. All you have to do is put it out there that that's what you want, and then just have faith that it is going to manifest in the moment that is for your best and highest good, because you are enough. And as you get to know yourself, everything you want will start to show up for you.
There it is. You got it straight from Darnyelle's mouth. Thanks for joining me. Remember, leadership is personal, and it starts with you. If you join us here each and every week, you'll get a tidbit of information and insight that'll help you be the best version of yourself. Come back next week. Be sure to join us on Facebook within the Facebook group. Check us out on Twitter and on Instagram. Kevin D. Wright. Look us up. Check us out. Link to us online. Love to hear from you. Unlike some of the other podcasts, I want to hear directly from you, and I will answer your question. There's no question too tough, so together we can solve it. Stop back and tell a friend. Leadership is personal. Here's the better results.